spicy as your expressions would make me believe. There's these things called airplanes. I used to travel a lot. I don't know. I'm surprised by you. For whatever reason, because you have like a bit of a feisty persona, which I enjoy. But it made me think you were this like crazy badass, and now you're like, I don't know. So let's talk about the eternal question. How do you make a girl fall in love with you? Or to a lesser extent, how do you even get deep levels of attraction that actually go somewhere rather than just an interaction where the girl giggles a couple times and then says, okay, cool, have a nice night, I'm going with my friends. What is it that makes that difference? What is it that makes her commit? What is it that makes it actually work? See, the pickup community has kind of lied to you in a way for quite a while about what attraction is and what attraction looks like, mostly, quite frankly, for marketing purposes. See, a girl giggling is not the type of attraction that you need or want. It's useful because if she's giggling and have a good time, she'll give you a window of opportunity to convey the things you really want to convey. But having the girl giggling, having the girl have a big reaction to you is not in and of itself that important for game. What you actually want is a narrative in the girl's head. What you want is a story for the girl about who you are and what the relationship is that makes it seem like a win for her. If that's the case, if it's a win for her to have sex with you, she'll probably have sex. If it's a win for her to have a relationship with you, she will probably get into a relationship with you. But it's really that narrative that is super, super critical. And so many guys, they focus on the big reactions and the giggling in ways that actually hurt the narrative, right? What they'll do is they'll go for the laughs, go for the jokes in ways that are maybe self-deprecating or don't convey themselves in the highest possible or best possible, most high-value light. And so what happens is it looks and feels like they're doing well, it looks like the girl is interested, but in actuality, every single little self-deprecating thing or every little like random stupid self-amused thing they're saying is actually getting them further from the actual result, okay? So what you want is that narrative. And it really comes down to a few different things. Number one, how are you conveying yourself? If the girl were to tell her friend after the interaction, who is this guy I just met? What is his job? What are his passions? What is he about? What is the experience of him, right? What is this guy? Who are you, right? Every single time a girl asks you a question, it's an opportunity. If a girl asks you what you do for a living, you should have an answer to that that conveys you in the light you want to be conveyed in. Whenever you tell a story, you should be telling stories that convey you as the type of person that you want to be for her, right? So every single time you open your mouth, you have an opportunity to convey yourself as a high-value guy or a low-value guy, an intriguing guy or a boring guy, a sex-worthy guy or a guy who's terrible with girls. So you want to take advantage of those opportunities, and that's the first part of the narrative, is the narrative of you. The next part of the narrative, which is absolutely critical, is the narrative of us, meaning the narrative of you and the girl. And that starts with evaluation. It starts with the fact that the girl needs to win you over, all right? People value the things that they've worked for. People value the things that are hard to come by. If you're too easy, if you'll just go with any girl, that conveys that you have no standards, you're low value. If that's the case, how is being with you a win? If she's the best that you could do, then she, almost by definition, is losing by being with you. If you have had lots of girls before, if you've had lots of great adventures in your life before, if she had to work for you, if she has to compete with other girls, with your life, with your passions, now she's going to value you. All right, so it's very, very critical that occur, right? It makes it more special for her, and that's the evaluation phase in a nutshell. I mean, I'm obviously just tip of the iceberg on that, but it is absolutely critical, and that is the start of the narrative of us, the narrative of you and her together. And then the next part of the narrative of us is, what is the meaning of this relationship? Is it that, you guys maybe have a great story of how you met that makes it so special and makes it so unique and intriguing? Or is it that you guys did these activities and had such a great time and something she could relate to in a very, very good way, all right? So what is the narrative? Think to yourself at all times, what is the story in her head? If she were afterwards to tell her friends, who is this guy, it should be favorable. If she were to tell her friends, what is the experience you had, it should be favorable. And here's a hint. Here's an unfavorable experience. This guy came up to me trying to pick me up. I gave in and spread my legs for him. That's not a favorable experience. So there needs to be something else. There needs to be some other wrinkles, some other nuance. There needs to be something in it that makes it a win for her. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna show you an infield clip, or a few infield clips, of a situation where it's not a very giggly set. It's not all over the place, ha ha, yeah, 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 rah, rah, dancing monkey type set. It's a very calm set, but what I'm doing, almost everything out of my mouth in this set is conveying who I am, who we are, what it will be like. And it's specifically in this case, it's conveying that I'm a high status, high value guy continually. And you can see, even though it's not an interaction that's like me like spinning the girl over my head and her giggling constantly, even though that's not the nature of the interaction, it's an interaction that actually goes somewhere and can get a result. So let's check that out right now. I appreciate your You're lucky that I like arrogance. So there, I don't know the exact thing she said, but clearly she was indicating she thought she was hot, that kind of thing. And I said, you know, it's so arrogant of you, that kind of thing. But see, interesting thing, now that she's calling out that she's hot, she's calling out what she thinks are her good features, now she actively is qualifying to me. And so the weird thing is, this one inverted a little bit in the sense that she never disqualified and she never resisted the narrative. But once the narrative got strong enough, once my value relative to her got high enough, when I actively tried to qualify her, you know, it didn't really work that much, and there weren't even that many opportunities to actively qualify her. They were just kind of coming up because the premise wasn't so keenly established. What ended up happening, because I just said, okay, fine, if there's not a lack of premise and if there's not a lack of evaluation, I'm just going to go ahead and act as though there's narrative and see if she'll accept that. Well, what ended up happening retroactively is this level of narrative that we had and this level of her viewing me as a high value guy. Now she just started to actually qualify herself to me, and she started to actually put me in this situation where I can start evaluating her. And so it's a little out of order, but it actually makes total sense. So rather than having to force it to happen, because it was just not happening, I kind of bypassed it, and then I allowed it to just kind of come up naturally. And to be fair, had it not happened, eventually, then maybe we move forward, maybe we go to a different venue where it's quieter and maybe the vibe changes. But you can see how just the general gradual inevitable in the case of, you know, someone with good game, increase in your own value is going to just get the girl qualifying to you more and more over time. I have to tell you, actually, confidence is probably about the sexiest thing in a girl. So if you had to either lose your booty or lose the confidence, I prefer you lose the booty. Although, you know, just stay yours better. What? I'm not telling you to. I'm just saying, between that and the confidence, keep the confidence. You are absolutely ridiculous. And notice, now that she is more bought in, she's more invested, now that gives me permission and it gives me the ability to be, you know, increase the premise a little bit more. And it gives me permission to get more physical without necessarily feeling like it might go badly. So this is an interesting interaction in the sense that we sort of like progressed in layers, right? There was enough premise to just kind of get me over the line to being able to do some evaluation and narrative type stuff, but not a lot. But then as the narrative built and the value built, now I'm able to go back and fill in and increase those other levels to get them up to a normal interaction where it's starting to feel like it's actually going well. It's starting to feel like there's actually that chemistry. But it was a much slower process because this girl, not in a bad way I don't think, but she just like kept going back to platonic. So even though I think she liked me, things weren't able to move as fast or as smoothly as they do in my normal interactions, right? But it just goes to show the beauty of value. Right? And the fact that once you have built narrative with a girl, it makes everything else easier. So for example, if you go on a date with a girl and she already has an idea in her mind of how you're very cool or who you are, getting escalation on that date, getting man-to-woman vibe on the date, getting things to go well on the date is going to be easier as well, right? And so when you can get some narrative created, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean connection between you and her. It means her viewing you as a good sexual option, her viewing you as a win sexually. That's what it actually means. Once that's in place, a lot of these other elements can fall into place a lot easier. Legitimately, I know all kinds of things to do with you, but I don't know what to do with you. I think the word is incorrigible. Not at all. And now again, now that I know I have more value, I'm actually going through and filling in more of the evaluation stage. So again, I kind of assumed my way through it. I said, as long as she's not qualifying to me, we'll just assume it through and see if it works, and it did. And then what happened is, as I built more narrative, now I'm able to like fill in that evaluation phase, and it all kind of feeds onto itself, right? And then once that exists, it's going to create more of that sort of second tier of narrative where there's the narrative of me and her together, right? But again, you don't necessarily need that. It is very possible to sleep with girls with very little connection, as long as she views you as a high-value guy and a win for her. Now, in an ideal situation, there is that connection because you have established the premise of you and her together. You have established that you're evaluating her and got her jumping through your hoops, and then it feels like a win for you and her to be together, and there's that specific narrative about you and her's relationship, specific narrative about what you've built together. But again, I want to remind you, what literally is narrative is the story in her mind of why you are a win for her. That doesn't necessarily involve connection. So that's some interesting footage to break down, and I hope seeing that and understanding that helps you shift from these giggly sets that go nowhere to more calm, intimate sets that actually go somewhere, that actually lead to a girl getting deeply connected, that actually potentially lead to a girl falling in love with you. Now, those clips were from inside my new program, The System, which is coming in the next couple weeks, and there's some more insane content coming out in the meantime, so you want to subscribe, hit that notification button, and stay tuned for all of it, because it is dropping very, very soon, and there is much, much more to come. See you on the next video.